Well, here we go. More crazy videos, more outlaw recording. Isn't that great? Outlaw recording here. Well, here I am again. And I usually don't do Q&As until the end of the month, whenever I get them. But this guy who watched a couple of my videos, he asked me about death and dying, PTSD or whatever. He added a lot of stuff. It was a very, very long letter kind of description thing. And he asked me, well, because, he saw the military stuff and he assumed that I've seen and killed a lot of people or something. I don't know. That's kind of a weird question. I don't know if he's some sort of psycho Call of Duty guy. I don't know. This guy, Hair of the Dog, with the capital DOGGG, Hair of the Dog. Well, he asked me experiencing dying or death. It's very, very weird. He hasn't. I responded to him and asked him if he had going through a personal issue about maybe somebody in his family or whatever, or dying or something. I'm not really sure. So he asked me what was the earliest experience. And I would say it would have to go back personally to 1972 during the summer, 72. My younger brother, by 1 year, was hit by a truck while outside. My mom grabbed me, put me in the car, drove like a bat out of hell to the hospital where my brother died of his injuries. So I didn't see him at the wake, but they opened him up, his coffin, at the gravesite. And my mom cried, of course, naturally, losing her one of only two sons. And I wondered, as I looked at him, he looked pinkish and purple, why is he sleeping in that box instead of his bed? Because, I didn't understand dying at the time. I mean, at my age, I was 9 years old. I mean, I've seen cartoons and movies and, saw, Clockwork Orange and Green Berets and some of the early films, John Wayne, Sands of Iwo Jima, Flying Tigers, that kind of stuff. But I never experienced it at a personal level, especially with my youth, at my age. So I didn't get it. I didn't understand it at all. So after that experience, it was, people came in and out of my life during that time period. A lot of bad things happened as I was growing up because my dad ditched my mom. It was just my mom and me. Then my mom hooked up with some guys. Then she hooked up with a biker back in the 70s. Think about it. Bikers, real bikers, not these Sons of Anarchy fucking jack-offs you see in these TV shows. These are real homebred motorcycle clubs. I mean, pretty hardcore bunch of guys. And every Friday night and every Saturday night, these guys would come over and they would smoke weed and have the little sex orgies, fighting, beating each other up and shooting guns, doing all the crazy stuff. So I was exposed to a lot of physical violence during that time period, but nobody died. I mean, I haven't seen a death or bodies or whatever, so I didn't see all that stuff. Right until about 1979, I think it was, that in the area that I lived in back in the 70s was very, very rough, very bad neighborhood. And somebody that lived in our apartment complex got killed, got drug deal went bad, and this guy got shot full of holes. And that was the second time I've ever seen an actual dead person, physically seen them. And before we were rushed, all the kids are moved away, get away from there, you kids, and they moved the crowd back. And it was just a big pool of blood that was congealing. Then, dealing with all that. When's the next time? The next time, well, back in 1981, went in 81, I went and joined the service. Went to my basic training, my AIT, became an infantryman and National Guard. And we didn't see anybody get killed, okay? I mean, I don't know what kind of weird Army stories people say about their people getting, basic training people getting killed, but I never saw it. We never had that situation. So it wasn't until about 1982, after I came back, that the biker that my mom lived with, his oldest son got killed, got murdered in a very, very grisly way. I didn't even go to the funeral, so I didn't even see anything. So there was no experience in that. I saw a lot of injuries while I was in the National Guard serving my weekend warrior stuff. I saw a lot of people get hurt, but nothing like dying. Right around 1985, I went from being a tow truck driver, my civilian job. I saw a couple of fatals during that time period. Some really bad freaking accidents. I mean, really bad ones. And the company that I work for sometimes gets called up to go to those fatal crashes. And I've seen some pretty bad crashes. There was this two guys that was speeding, going way too fast, drunk as skunks, and they were driving like an old Celica at the time. And apparently the police tried to get them to stop. They were driving too fast, so they chased them. And they went and rear-ended a bus, an RTD bus, doing about 80 miles an hour, and compressed the car all the way into the back seat. So that was pretty graphic. By the time I got there was police everywhere, and the coroner's office, the whole 9 yards, and that was bad. That was a bad one. We had to pull that car apart, and it was just the people in it was just mangled. That was like one of 3 or 4 car accidents I went to that I actually was called on with my tow truck and my service vehicle. Another one, vehicle rollover, and the lady's head got against the door, and then the car rolled and smashed her head, and that was pretty bad. So after I left that job, I got a job with the LA coroner's office because I saw this guy who was seen him on a lot of these fatal crashes all the time, and especially in our junkyard or our holding lot, we'd see coroner people go in there and have to do investigations on fatal car crashes. Got me a job in there as a driver, and drove the big vans where they would go out and pick up bodies, and I got exposed to that, and I worked from Wednesday till Friday mornings. And I've been on a lot of calls of fatal shootings and suicides. And after about 7 or 8 months of that, I just had enough. I just couldn't deal with it no more, because some of those killings, like murder, like the husband and wife would be fighting over custody of the kid, and the guy would go and kill the kid. So after doing that, that was bad. All of that stuff was bad. So, wow, we're going on 10 minutes on this video. Um, I don't know. I mean, I'm telling you all this stuff because you're asking about personal experiences. You know, I don't really get too much into detail about it, but I'm thinking that you're hinting on my military service over in Iraq, and most of the violence I saw there was civilian on civilian violence. I mean, I'm going to describe to you what my job was. I did convoy security, which is you get into armored Humvees, 1114s, 1151s, you know, heavy armored Humvees, turrets with 50 cals or 249s or 240s on them. And you escort the big line hauler trucks, the big Mack trucks, So we would go from Camp Virginia to Kabari, and then we would do escort all the way into Iraq, all over Iraq, Camp Cedar, Talil, Buka, Scania, Baghdad, Mosul, all these places. So you would go through places like IED Alley and some of these weird places like the Sunni Triangle of Death. We went through there. You're always dodging either IEDs, got to look out for IEDs or ambushes or whatever. So some of the action that I was actually involved in was very small. It's not like that I was like a Marine that went in and kicked in doors in Baghdad and went after insurgents. That was not our job. So I got to be a driver. I drove a bunch of convoy missions as a driver. I was qualified to drive. And as an NCO, I was a truck commander a bunch of times. And a lot of times I would take my turn up in the turret, manning the 50 cal, the 249, or the 240s. So, believe it or not, on my very first mission up north, I actually rode shotgun in a wrecker, a PLS wrecker for the mechanics guys. And everything was okay. And we rolled right up onto the gate at Camp Cedar. Oh, wow, this video is going on 13 minutes. On Camp Cedar. And maybe I'll stop this video and go on to a part 2. What do you think, Hua? Ready for a part 2? What do you think? All right, hair of the dog. I'm going to explain further about your question, Hua.